Hey gals and guys, it's your host Phil Larson, and this is your Motivational High Five on Rewiring Your Brain, Part 1. Let's do this. Today we are hearing from Dr. William Ranahan, who teaches molecular cell biology, genetics, and methods of biotechnology, and does breast cancer research at ORU. He has been published in journals Cancer Research, Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, and the Journal of Biological Chemistry. He was recently awarded, in his second year of teaching at ORU, the Outstanding Faculty Member in the Biology and Chemistry Department for work that he did in his first year teaching. And he's going to lead us through what it means to rewire our brains in scientific terms and explanations. He is absolutely qualified in this stuff, and so heed his word, and here he goes.
So until very recently, scientists believed that neurological plasticity, which is the ability of neurons to grow and change and make new connections, we thought that largely ceased after your late 20s. We now know it is definitely possible to make significant, large changes to the way your brain is wired even as adults. So that's sort of the new concept here, is that we thought your brain development was over by your late 20s, and now we realize that there are scenarios where you can actually rewire your brain later on in life. So to understand this process, we have to talk about neurons. These are the key cells in the brain, and your brain has about 100 billion of these cells, and each one can make up to 10,000 connections with other neurons. So healthy minds are interconnected. They have a lot of connections between all the different parts of the brain. That's a good thing. Neurons are really unique in that they communicate with electricity, in addition to chemicals, neurotransmitters. This is very much like wires. They're using electricity to communicate and get a signal from one side to the other. They're not actually physically connected to each other, which is the other sort of odd thing about neurons. They reach out, they get super close to each other, about 20 nanometers. If you think of a human hair, divide that width of a single human hair by 1,000. So it's 1,000th. That's how close these neurons get to each other, but they don't actually touch. And the fact that the neurons do not physically connect is bizarre. It's very odd. Imagine if all the wires in your house were suddenly chopped up every few feet and you just sort of hoped that the current would be able to jump that gap. That's sort of the situation we have in the brain. We have a system for communicating electrically, but there are gaps, lots and lots of gaps. So what is amazing is that because the neurons are not physically connected, we actually can rewire our brains. Even if you have deeply entrenched habits, those pathways can be uncoupled if you stop using them. The brain wants to assess whether or not you're balanced well, and if it senses imbalance, it's going to try to get you back to balancing. And so if you're feeling stressed or tired or anxious, you're going to try to do things that'll make you feel better. And those may or may not be beneficial to you. But once we have gone from point A, I feel stressed, to point B, I will do this action which will make me feel better. These are neurons that are connecting with each other, and pathways are forming in your brain. So as I say, they're not permanent, but that is sort of how habits develop, right? And because they are not permanent, you can actually uncouple them simply by not using them.
Friends, this is what we are doing here. We can begin to rewire our brains only when we allow ourselves to self-examine. That it is more than me talking at you, that the subjects covered in this podcast prompt you to look at you, question the way you've always done things, and help give you the motivation to do things differently and create positive change in your life. Step 1 of rewiring your brain: identifying the bad habits and the unhealthy ways of thinking and breaking the electrical circuit by not doing them. I know Dr. Ranahan, or Bill as I call him, well enough to say he would agree with you. Easier said than done. Yes, and I agree with you as well. Maybe the first step for you then is believing that it is even biologically possible. Friends, glean some hope that whatever unhealthy coping mechanisms you have developed to deal with the stresses of life and attempts to bring balance to the brain can indeed be broken. The neurons have gaps. They are not welded together. Whoa, that's huge. You can literally break a habit by breaking its circuit. It may seem daunting and impossible. In part 2 of this episode, we'll show you that it's not impossible, and we'll give you practical ways to start making new connections. But for now, let's start small. And at this part of the episode, we find a reflection of ourselves, and we tell us something that I'm about to lead you in. And today's saying is this: I believe I possess the power to break my bad habits. Go for it. For me, friends, it's evidence of my higher power, of God to me. Okay, that's for me. That doesn't have to be for you. Because I see how we are designed to hope for and achieve positive change and a more healthy future for our lives. What is this evidence of for you? Keep bringing your questions. Keep coming back. You're worth it. Keep questioning yourself and keep testing if this even really works. Because it starts with you.